Hi everyone, Flaming Footy here and welcome back to a new video on the channel. And today guys, we are going to be continuing our 3-game match reviews for the 2023 AFL season and 3-game for the second lot of 3 games for round 2. The games that I'm going to be reviewing are Adelaide vs Richmond, Western Bulldogs vs St Kilda and Fremantle vs North Melbourne. Alright, so the first game was the Tigers versus the Crows at the Adelaide Oval, and this game did actually look to be quite interesting until the start of it, where Richmond flew out the blocks early up until halftime, where the scores were exactly 24-69. In third quarter, the Adelaide Crows bounced back and also continued that into the final quarter. They came back to within 1 point, 75-76, but their inaccuracy ended up that they shot themselves in the foot based on inaccuracy. Kicked 10-16 again this week after kicking 18 behinds last week. They lost for that reason, and this week again losing for inaccuracy reasons. The third quarter, they dominated that quarter. They should have been in front. They should have led by about 20 points at three-quarter time, and probably realistically from there probably could have won as well. But the Tigers just show that they just got better legs to outrun the Crows later on in the game. 39 disposals for Laird, 3 goals for Fogarty, and Samson Ryan and Tom Lynch. Samson Ryan was really good. 142 fantasy for Laird, 8 tackles for Rory Laird, Tim Taranto. Player stats we go now. AFL Fantasy, 142 for Laird, 110 for Scholl. He had probably a career best perhaps for Lachie Scholl. 109 for Hopper, 108 for Taranto, so the 2 Tigers recruits, 102 for Nankervis, 101 for Dawson, 100 for Baker. Goals behinds, 3 goals for Fogarty. He had a pretty good day out, except obviously Crows lost, but he did have a pretty decent day. 3 goals for Ryan and Lynch, he was good. Walker, 2 goals, 3. There's just a couple of Crows players which just weren't quite accurate enough. 2 goals for Reebok, Rochelle Rankin as well. Was there anybody else that... Pedler and Keys both blew their chance for the Crows with 2 behinds each. So you can see there that just a couple of chances went begging for them. 39 disposals for Laird, 28 for Taranto, 27 for Dawson and Scholl. 8 tackles for Laird, Taranto, 6 for Saligo, Hopper. 37 hit-outs for Nankervis, 30 for O'Brien, 6 for Ryan, 4 for Thilthorpe, 1 for Himmelberg. Team stats now where... Let's see, 53-51. The Crows actually went inside 50 more times than Richmond, but it was based on the behinds really, which is why they went in a lot. How many behinds they actually scored? They had more scoring shots than the Tigers as well. However, that third quarter is where all the inside 50s came. They had a dominant period in that third quarter. Did the Adelaide Crows? Could not capitalise though. Not much more which I'm seeing at the moment. It was actually quite a... In terms of these actually numbered stats, it actually looks quite close. Looks a lot closer than what we all thought it was. 60-43 tackles. We do know the Crows are a good tackling side. However, that's pretty much it. And it actually looks closer than what the game was. Even though the Crows did get back within 1 point and you thought they might have been able to upset, the Tigers were definitely deserving winners based on the work they'd done in that first half. And in the last quarter, they did deserve to pile on the goals. 32 points is a decent enough win for the Tigers. They probably would be disappointed it wasn't more, but again though, at this stage of the year, definitely getting those 4 points is really important. The loser was going to go 0-2 or winless to start the year, and that is the Crows that go 0-2. The first of 2 Saturday night games was Western Bulldogs and St Kilda. Western Bulldogs 5-11-41 got smashed by the Saints 14-8-92. St Kilda 2-0 to start the year. Their 150th anniversary game coming up next week versus the Bombers Saturday night footy at the MCG. They'd be very confident going into that game with the performances they've put up so far. 51-point win over the Western Bulldogs. The Dogs kicked 5 goals for the game. Their forward line is just not bonding. They just kicked it to where all the Saints were. Their defence, their pressure, everything was great from the Saints, despite the Dogs making them earn it at parts. Their first quarter and a half was really good. They just absolutely thumped the Western Bulldogs. The Dogs did not kick their first goal until midway through that second quarter, where they ended up kicking about 4 in a row. Yeah, they kicked 4 in a row to half time, 29-34 at the main break, and they came back within 3 points to be 37-40 there. And then after that, it was just all St Kilda. The Dogs did not kick another goal since, let's see, where is it? This mark, the third quarter, 37-40 as I said. And then, yeah, it was just gone from there, and the Saints just went on to win the game. They had a really good third quarter. They kicked 6 goals that quarter to the Dogs 1. And right when the game was on the line there to be won, the Saints just took the game on and won it for themselves. And at 3/4 time, the game was over. 33 disposals for Sinclair, 3 goals for Owens and Phillippo. Phillippo's got some real X-factor game-breaking abilities about him. 118 fantasy for Steele, 9 tackles for Crouch. Player stats now. 118 fantasy for Steele, 117 for English, 116 for Marshall, 111 for Crouch, 110 for Sinclair. Goals behind, 3 goals for Owens and Phillippo. Phillippo, top 10 pick. He's already showing that he is a breaking out classy player. And I reckon he could be right in that mix for perhaps a Rising Star award, or definitely at least a nomination, I'd say. At least a nomination, but I feel like he's going to have some real breakout games this year, and I reckon this was one of them. 2 goals for Norton, 2 goals for Caminti, or I'm pretty sure that's how I'm going to pronounce his name. I'm not quite sure, but that's my best go. He was pretty good. 2 goals for Gresham and Cordy. Mason Wood, 1 goal too, so he's still getting around the footy as well. 33 disposals for Sinclair, 29 for Steele, 28 for Smith, 26 for Clark and Crouch. Now 2 tackles, 9 for Crouch, 8 for Liberatore. Here it's 29 for Marshall, 26 for English, 7 for Cordy, 3 for Darcy, 2 for Norton, and 1 for Bontempelli. Team stats now. The Saints dominated in disposals, kicks, handballs, 37 to 57 inside 50s. That is a big number there, plus 20 for St Kilda. They were just going inside 50 way more times. The ball lived in their 50. Felt like the Dogs never really got a chance, and when they did, could not make the most of it. 5-11 is we say that's. As I say, that's not great enough. That's not good enough. And especially a score of 41 through 4 quarters of footy is definitely disappointing there for the Western Bulldogs. 7 to 12 centre clearances. That's probably the only real clearance stat that's interesting. Now, let's see. Is there anything else? 124 marks to 111, both these sides looking to mark. 12 to 6 contested marks in favour of the Western Bulldogs. The Saints did lead for the whole game, despite the Dogs looking like they may mount a comeback in that second quarter. And third quarter, by then, the Saints just had the game well and truly on their grasp. The second Saturday night game was an absolute thriller in Perth, one of the most unlikely of results you'd see. An absolute upset, you could say, and definitely one of the upsets of the year, I reckon. Fremantle 10-12-72, North Melbourne 11-7-73. North are 2-0 to start the year. They've won their first 2 games. After last week, a bit of a rusty performance versus West Coast did get them over the line in the end. This week, they looked a lot better and just managed to hold on. So they looked good in that first quarter. I mean, they led for the entire game, really. They led for the entire game. They looked really good in those first 2 quarters where they really did put the Dockers under the pump. That third quarter was definitely 3 goals each apiece. So it was a pretty close quarter. That third quarter, the Dockers looked like they might actually steal it then. The Kangaroos started that last quarter off really well, got out to about a 20-point lead there, and then the Dockers kicked 1, 2, 3 goals to respond, and they nearly get the job done. They had multiple repeat inside 50s in that last quarter, in that last minute to try and get the ball in. The ball comes out, and no deliberate out of bounds call because the siren sounds just before. This was a great game, and Fremantle made North earn it, but I tell you, this was a cracking contest. 31 disposals for Sarong, 4 goals for Larkey, 127 fantasy for Sheasel, 7 tackles for Brayshaw, 7 tackles for Shields. But look, this was just a cracking game, and Fremantle had real trouble finding targets inside 50, where at times it just looked like it was a little bit too easy for North. And Optus Stadium is not a happy hunting ground for North, especially against Fremantle, where they've been beaten by massive occasions, on multiple occasions as well. They've been beaten by massive margins on multiple occasions going there the past couple of years. And they can't even beat West Coast there either. They've had a couple of troubles in the past couple of years beating West Coast there. But this is a big confidence here for North, that they needed a really strong win. And they got one. Harry Sheasel looking great. Another 30 disposal game for him, 127 fantasy. 123 for Davies Uniacke. He's on fire. Brayshaw, despite being on the losing side, was still his normal self. 120 fantasy, 115 for Ryan, and Sarong 109 for Zeeble. Goals behinds, 4 goals for Larkey, 2 for O'Meara and Walters, 2 for Stevenson, 2 for Taylor. Disposals, 31 for Sarong, 30 for Ace from Ryan and Davies Uniacke and Sheasel, 28 for Brayshaw, 26 for Zeeble and Zerha. We'll go to tackles. 7 for Brayshaw and Shields. Hit-outs 28 for Darcy, 27 for Goldstein, 17 for Jackson, 2 for Greenwood, 1 for Comben. Team stats now, where it was quite even in the inside 50s, 53 to 46, still very even. And Fremantle did just have a couple of moments in this game where they've got repeat inside 50s, and that's probably North Melbourne's only weak point, is when Fremantle did have that good domination period, they did actually dominate. And it did feel like a couple times North could get behind, however their composure was really great. That they smashed the Dockers. This is a great midfield that the Dockers have. They've got the likes of Sarong, Brayshaw in there. And they got smashed in clearances, did the Dockers. 30 to 45, 8 to 16 censor, 22 to 29 stoppage. That was just insane stuff. 101 to 95 marks in favour of the Dockers, 10 to 7 marks inside 50. The North Melbourne led for the whole game, and in the end got the job done against what you could say decent Fremantle side. Both these two sides did have their little troublesome moments throughout the night, but in the end, North get the job done for a ripping upset. Alright, game still to come. Sydney versus Hawthorn, Essendon versus Gold Coast. That is a big game. Both these two sides would love a win. The Suns really disappointing last week. The Bombers, they would love to start their season 2-0, heading into a big clash next week with the Saints. And then West Coast versus GWS. This is a big game. The Giants looked good last week. They got plenty of outs. And West Coast, oh boy, they need a win. They've had a very poor record for the last year or something like that. They need to turn things around. To the ladder, the Saints enjoy sitting on top of the table, followed by Collingwood in second. North Melbourne have jumped up into third. The Tigers fourth. Carlton are fifth. And then we'll just go through the rest of the ladder. Here it is. And yes, wow. What an interesting ladder it is. And I'm sure this will change based on Sunday's footy action. And here are the other games throughout this round. So thank you guys all so much for watching. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. See you guys and then miss another video on the channel. Thank you guys all so much. And bye everyone. Flame Footy out.